Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Jo Bradshaw and I head up the health recruitment team at working in New Zealand Health. We're based in Auckland, and me and my team, we basically help health professionals move to New Zealand. The number one thing that we do is to help you secure a job. But we also have a team of people that do help do your visas, and we can also help with the whole relocation and settlement process as well. So look, the purpose of this live this morning or evening, wherever you are in the world, or it might be afternoon, is to just share with you some expert tips on how you can go about getting prepared and the key steps in terms of making the move. We've helped thousands of people over the years to make the move. I made the move also myself, so from the UK, so I know what it's like, and we know it can be quite stressful and challenging at times, but we're here to support you. As I say, we've helped so many people. We've dealt with every kind of challenge and situation, and so see us as your people to guide you on your way and tell you what to do at the time when you need to do it. So first of all, let's get stuck in. So if you haven't started your nursing registration, then that is the number one thing that you need to do. So yes, of course, you'll be registered in the country that you're currently working, but you do need to be registered in New Zealand. And so what we suggest you do there is jump online to the New Zealand Nursing Council, and they have a page there for nurses that are what you call internationally qualified nurses. And that will talk you through the process of how you go about doing that. And it's really important to point out that, and this can trip people up, is there's two key steps to that process of getting nursing registration. The first one is you have to get your documents verified by the CGFNS. And so they are a special authority based in the US, which again often kind of confuses people. But they are commissioned by the New Zealand Nursing Council to do all the verification of your documentation. So that's the CGFNS. What they will do is you'll send all your documents to the CGFNS, such as your existing registration, your qualifications, your employment history, and they will then, your identity documents, they will then review and approve those. Now, what I will say is be very patient, because that can take several months to go through that process, because collating your documents, and you've got to request the university to send your documents on your behalf, for example, and the Nursing Council have to send evidence of your registration on your behalf. So if you can just imagine that you're relying on other organisations as well to send that documentation through. So we're here to help you. So you can always come to us for any guidance. I think Robin will pop up. I've got my colleague Robin here, actually, she's managing the chat. She'll pop up at some point the Contact Us page off our website, so that you can then contact us if you have any queries. But what I would say, if you're interested in moving, get started on your registration, because that can take 4 to 6 months. Please also note that if you didn't, if English isn't your first language, and you didn't study, or you didn't study in English and didn't study in your Bachelor of Nursing in English, then you will also need to do an English language test, and that would be OET or IELTS, and those are the two tests that are approved. So you won't be able to succeed in getting registration until you've achieved the required results there. So that's just something extra to think about if English isn't your first language or you haven't studied in English. So So that's the registration. All up, it probably costs about 1,200 New Zealand dollars, but you're paying that at different stages, so you don't have to have all that money ready up front. But if you're serious about moving, please do get started on your registration. Now, okay, so how do you go about securing a job? Well, as you're probably aware, I mean, there's a global skill shortage of nurses. So there really is no shortage of jobs in New Zealand, pretty much every single nursing discipline. And we work with the public health system here in New Zealand, Te Whatu Ora, and they've got hospitals all throughout New Zealand. We deal with the private health sector, and so we work with many of the private hospitals in New Zealand. We also work with some medical centres if you're a practice nurse. We also work with aged care providers. We work with physiotherapy clinics. We work with community services for any nurses that might be like a district health nurse. And so we do work right across the board. And so what we do is, once you've started with your registration and we understand your preferences, we will actually, I'll just take a step back there, because what we do is we actually have a consultation with you. I should have mentioned that. So we do a consultation with you and we understand your skills and experience, and as I say, your preferences, and try and gather further information as to how we can help you secure a job. And then we actually connect you up with all the multiple providers that we work with, and we follow that process through on your behalf. So basically we take all the stress away from you. You know, we're on the ground here in New Zealand, and you know, the option for you is to obviously apply for jobs yourself online. However, the thing with that is, when you are applying to employers in New Zealand and you're overseas, they don't know what stage you're at in the process, when you're ready to move, whether you've started your registration, or even if you can get a visa. So we've developed relationships with employers that are open to accepting international applications, and are also prepared to be flexible on those start dates. And so feel free to use our services to help you to secure a job. There's no charge for our recruitment service. And so, as I say, the first step is to do a consultation with us. We can pop up you've got, Robin, you put the contact us up there. Yeah, so if you want to organise a consultation, then feel free to use the contact us link that Robin has popped in the comments section. And then we can arrange a time to meet with you online. The other thing is, with regards to securing a job, you know, make sure your CV is fully up to date. On your CV, you want everything in like reverse chronological order. So having there first the information that your most recent job, and what we need to see is, you know, your job title, who you're working for and where. So they need to be very clear, obviously, what country you're in, and also your key responsibilities in that role. Also good to have a bit of a summary at the top of your CV, just talking about your key experience and key skills. And we kind of, once we get your CV, we kind of pretty much help you do the rest. When we present you to employers, not only do we reformat your CV and make sure it's looking as good as it can be, we also put a profile together for you on your behalf, and then we're dealing with the actual hiring manager. So we're dealing with the decision makers. So that means for you that, you know, you're not sitting around waiting for a response to your online application. We are actually managing that personally with the right people. And as I said before, there is no charge for our recruitment service. I mean, as I said, we've had lots and lots of people We're also guiding you on, what salary band that you should be in. Obviously, we've got pay grades, different pay grades in New Zealand, as you will do in your current country. We have collective agreements. And so we can guide you on, what your pay rate will be, what your grade should be according to your experience. So anything to do with sort of expectations of working in the New Zealand health system. We actually met with a group of Irish nurses yesterday that we helped to move. And so that are already in New Zealand. They've been here a few months. And we're always looking to understand, what their experience is, what it's like to work in a New Zealand hospital compared to being at home. So we've got all that information that we can share with you in terms of how to be prepared. And, the number one thing there is to get a really good foundation. If you're moving to New Zealand, you want to stay in the role, the specialist area, if you are in a specialist area that you're currently in. So if you're in ED, stay in ED. But the other thing is, make sure you've got that good foundation so that you can really bring some solid skills and your confidence to New Zealand, because you're still going to need to sort of adapt slightly into the New Zealand way. So we've talked about registration. We've talked about securing a job. Now, with the whole move process, it's important to know that in order to get a visa to work in New Zealand, then if you want to come to New Zealand on a more permanent basis, or even just for a couple of years, then you need to have your registration and the job offer in place. So there's a couple of different options for your visa. One is an accredited employer work visa. That's a relatively new visa that came into play in July last year. What that means is your prospective employer needs to be accredited by Immigration New Zealand to be able to hire you. And this means that they've gone through the necessary assessments to make sure that they're in a position to hire an international worker. So it's basically protecting you. And so the accredited employer work visa can be applied for once you've got your registration and once you've got your job offer. That visa can take anything probably about 6 weeks to 2 months, something like that. However, what is even more exciting is that there is a straight to residency option. So the New Zealand government has recognised, the need for nursing skills in New Zealand and highly values international workers coming to New Zealand. And so what they've done is they've put nurses in what they call tier 1 of the green list. Now the green list for go, I'm not quite sure why they even called it the green list, but anyway, let's say green for go. This means that if you are eligible, you meet all the sort of requirements of a visa, then you can apply for straight to residency. And that's going to give you a lot more flexibility in terms of when you come to New Zealand. And once looking further down the track, if you've got straight to residency, then you can move to a permanent residency visa, and in the long term, if you want interested in citizenship. On your visa, whether it's accredited employer work visa or straight to residence, as long as you meet all the requirements, then you can also bring your partner and dependents. And when I say dependents, that's children. The parent visa is much different and has a whole lot of other different requirements. So it's a great opportunity for nurses here, because you can bring your partner and you can bring your children out here on your visa. So a really good note to know on the visas is, I think I mentioned in the first sort of few minutes of the live, that we have we also do visas. So we have a team of licensed immigration advisors here at Working In. We're actually the leading immigration agency in New Zealand. So as well as doing recruitment, we do immigration. And so in using our services, you can also, if you choose to, use one of our licensed immigration advisors to manage your visa. We find a lot of people want to do that because by the time they've kind of gone through the registration process, they kind of quite gladly want to let somebody else manage that process and just give you that certainty of being able to secure that visa that suits you and either yourself or you and your family. The visa, we do charge for visas, and so that will be discussed with you, with your licensed immigration advisor, depending on how many people are coming on the visa application, and also whether you're doing an accredited employer visa or straight to residence. So we'll quote you separately on that. So as I said, there's a charge for the visa service for managing your application and submitting that. But you do get a free consultation and all the recommended advice that goes along with that. And then, as I said, with the recruitment service and securing your job, there's no charge for that service. I'm just looking at a couple of comments here. And my colleague Robin's just passed me a question about the HCA to RN pathway. Yes, there is an option for, if you are a registered nurse in the country that you currently work in, but you're not eligible for nursing registration until you've done a CAP program, that's a competency assessment program, then there is potentially an option to get a job as a healthcare assistant and then do your CAP program in New Zealand and then transition into a registered nurse role. However, even if you are doing that program, you do need to still apply for registration in the normal way to get onto a CAP program that will be advised by the Nursing Council at the end of the process. So when you get to the approval stage, you'll either get approval as an RN or approval to get a CAP decision letter. So this is for people that are not eligible to get registered nurse status. And so that means that you can get a job as an HCA, but please be aware that the CAP program takes a couple of months. There is a cost of doing that as well. But it is certainly a pathway that you can engage in. And also remember, you'll still, if English isn't your first language or you didn't learn in English, then do your degree in English, then you will also need to do an English test. So this generally applies to people outside of the UK, Ireland, US, Canada, and Singapore. If you're in one of those countries, I'll say those again: UK, Ireland, US, Canada, and Singapore, then you shouldn't need to do a CAP program. But of course, the Nursing Council always holds the ultimate decision. So each application is looked at on a case-by-case basis. For countries outside of those that I've stated, then it is likely that you would need to do a CAP program. Hopefully, I think it was Patrick that wanted a question on that wanted to ask that. So hopefully that answers your question. I see here there's a question about paediatric nurses. Yes, absolutely. One of our Irish nurses that came in to see us yesterday, she's a paediatric nurse and loving her new role here in New Zealand. Another really good question is, do New Zealand employers recognise overseas experience? Yes, absolutely. For nursing registration in New Zealand, currently you need to have 2 years post-registration experience in the country where you registered. And so that 2 years is taken into consideration by the council. So you wouldn't be starting off as like a new grad. Essentially, you would probably start on step 2 or step 3 of the pay grade here. If you have got multiple years experience, so the registered nurse scale goes up to level step 7, and that is so that would be a senior nurse level 7, and so depending on the number of years experience and how your skills match with those the equivalent grades in New Zealand, will be the employer will determine what step to put you on. Beyond step 7, then it moves into another pay grade, which is the designated senior nursing roles as well. It can be quite hard to sort of get into those roles until you've got New Zealand experience, so please be aware of that. Just looking here, see if we've got any more questions there that I can cover off in this session. I think one of the things is to think about as well with New Zealand is, think about, why are you moving to New Zealand? One of the things I moved to New Zealand 22 years ago, and, a lot of people, we get lots of nurses that move here for a couple of years, and so they'll come here to travel, they'll come here for an experience. And then we also help people that come here as a family and are looking to move permanently. So when we're doing a consultation with you, we'll talk to you about what your intentions are so that we can get you the best fit in terms of a job and the best location as well. So, it's thinking about, what are you into doing in your spare time? What are the hobbies that you have? Do you want to be close to the ocean? Do you want to be close to a mountain? Would you prefer to live in central city? Would you prefer to be more regional? So there really is something for everybody. Above all, most people tell us that they love the outdoor lifestyle here, and the food. That's a big one. The food here is truly incredible, and the coffee. Actually, I'm a tea drinker, so that doesn't apply to me, but the coffee here is, by all accounts, some of the best in the world. So if you're a coffee drinker, then you're in for a treat. So we've talked about securing a job, and we've talked about registration, we've talked about the visa. I understand there's a lot of information and it can be quite overwhelming. Lots of people tend to look at different Facebook groups and get involved in chats, and they get lots of different information, and excuse me, not all of that will apply to you, or it might be incorrect or out of date. So what I will say is, please be really careful with what you read online. We can help you and give you the most up-to-date information, just to make sure that you're actually, you've got the right facts. So look, what to do from here. I'm just going to recap on what we've talked about. So if you're looking to move to New Zealand in the next 6 to 12 months, then get started on your registration now. As I mentioned, that can take 4 to 6 months to go through that process. Please also contact us and we can arrange a time to have a consultation with you. Now, that's just an informal interview where we understand more about you and your skills and experience and what your preferences are. When you're ready, we can then start submitting you to employers to secure you an interview or several interviews. Whilst this is all happening, we can also introduce you to our visa team. So things can be done concurrently. It's it can be a bit of a misnomer to think that things can be done in steps, because you can be doing your registration while we are looking for a job, while you're talking also to the visa team, and getting prepared on maybe the documentation that you need. And if you want to be here in the next 6 to 12 months, and that is what we recommend. When we do speak to you, we put together a personal plan for you. So we'll be very clear on what your steps should be according to your situation and what you should be doing next. And we will guide you right the way through until you arrive in New Zealand. So look, hopefully everybody, that has been a helpful session and you got most of the information you were expected to hear. And we'll come back. If we haven't responded to your comment, we will still do so. And also please remember that you can always contact us directly and we'll send you a personal response. Thank you so much for joining us, and good luck with your move, and we hope to be able to help you in the future. Goodbye.